Welcome back, it's Reno in the mix. Please like and subscribe and comment. There is a wave of destruction coming in 2023 for the black women, single or with children. I wanted to shed light on it and introduce ways it may be avoided and why it's happening. Sisters, I always say the best way to avoid a lot of this is find a good, smart, hard-working man and work together and stop all this independent woman crap. I don't need a man madness. Let's begin. Eviction, or forced relocation, is a critical and understudied mechanism that drives residential mobility, particularly in inner-city neighborhoods among low-income families. According to the U.S. Public Health Service Act, eviction means any action by a landlord, owner of a residential property, or other person with a legal right to pursue eviction or possessory action to remove or cause the removal of a tenant, lessee, or resident of a residential property from said residential property. A landlord must have legal cause to make a tenant vacate a rental unit prior to the ending of the term of tenancy, with the most common causes relating to the non-payment of rent. Nuisance laws involving too much usage of 911 services, the rental unit faces health or code violations, illegal activity, or a violation of the lease or rental agreement. Some states also include reasons such as health and safety violations or the sale of the rental unit as acceptable reasons for eviction. Requirements for how and when landlords are required to file eviction documents with the court and how tenants must be notified that eviction documents have been filed vary by state and jurisdiction. The basic notion, however, is that when a tenant fails to pay rent, violates the terms of their lease, uses police services too often, or the rental unit faces health or code violations, the landlord files an eviction notice with the court. A trial date with the housing court is then set and the landlord and tenant have the right to present their cases. Low-income tenants who are displaced are generally forced into substandard housing in poorer and higher crime neighborhoods. Evictions cause psychological trauma, increase the likelihood of suicide, increase emergency room usage, decrease credit access, and lead to homelessness. This problem is especially traumatizing for children, impacting their emotional, social, and physical well-being, and increasing the likelihood of lead poisoning, food insecurity, and issues with academic performance. The common understanding of eviction is solely as a product of a landlord-tenant relationship, a failure of the tenant to pay or uphold some other responsibility. But this understanding leaves out the municipal rules surrounding eviction filings and how discrimination and devaluation of black communities factor in. The effect of a neighborhood's racial composition on evictions has been studied at the city and metropolitan level. The results have been mixed. An article in Housing Studies that looked at serial eviction filings in Atlanta found that the share of the renter population that is black has a stronger predictive value than the share of the renter population that is cost-burdened. On the other hand, a study in social science research that looked at Milwaukee during the Great Recession found that other neighborhood characteristics are predictive of eviction patterns, but racial composition does not, itself, impact eviction rates. Most studies, however, do find a positive relationship between the black population and evictions at the neighborhood and personal level. A study from the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta found that after looking at specific housing characteristics, the number of houses owned by each landlord, and other neighborhood characteristics in Fulton County, the racial composition of the neighborhood, particularly the black resident percentage, contributes significantly to the number of eviction filings. A study from Housing Policy Debate on Las Vegas found that while some past studies have overstated the numerical significance of the racial composition of the neighborhood, with controls, the black percentage of a neighborhood still significantly impacts the likelihood of eviction. We analyze evictions at the neighborhood level, as many others have before us. Neighborhood-level analysis allows us to study how landlords in specific localities interact with their tenants to see if there are differences between similarly situated tenants. Our report looks nationally at eviction data from the Eviction Lab at Princeton University, tract-level data from the Census Bureau's American Community Survey, and gentrification analysis using the 2000 census data on 2010 census tract boundaries from Social Explorer. Looking at national data, we may lose some of the intricacies that local-level analysis is able to capture. Specifically, because we use Eviction Lab data, we only look at formal evictions. Formal evictions occur when landlords use the legal process to execute evictions, but formal evictions are only a small percentage of the ways that landlords force tenants out of their homes. Informal evictions have been on the rise, particularly during the pandemic. These methods include offering tenants a buyout, failing to fix maintenance requests, and performing illegal lockouts. The Eviction Lab's data also underestimates formal evictions and eviction filings, as a study from Geoforum confirmed in Lexington. However, the data is still useful for making intra-urban comparisons. The undercounting may be more pronounced because renters know that the courts are not in their favor and are likely to leave before formal evictions are executed. An investigation by the Baltimore Sun found that although the judicial system is meant to hear problems from both landlords and tenants, the court works more as a collection agency for landlords than as a tool to correct housing problems. A Fordham Urban Law Journal study found that having access to counsel greatly improved tenants' chances in housing court. But while 90% of landlords are represented by an attorney, 90% of tenants are not. Even when inspectors find residences to be illegal or unfit, landlords still win 89% of the money held in escrow. The landlord can then simply move on to renting to a new tenant without correcting the underlying violations. This problem of anti-tenant courts further exacerbates racial disparities. A study in housing policy debate found black majority neighborhoods have higher eviction rates than white neighborhoods, holding other neighborhood features equal, but that discrepancy can be somewhat improved by more tenant-friendly rental courts. In jurisdictions where eviction filings are cheap, such as Washington, D.C., where they cost only $15, filings are more common, and these costs are passed down to the tenant. In these cities, a study from Social Forces found property managers execute multiple eviction filings on the same household to regain late fees, and that black majority neighborhoods are more likely to experience these serial eviction filings. As a study from Regional Science and Urban Economics showed, tenants choose to pay the costs of late fees in their own eviction filings rather than try to find new housing because finding housing is more difficult and more expensive after an eviction filing. Similarly, the 2-month loss of rental revenue and turnover costs are not attractive to landlords. According to an ethnographic study by City and Community, landlords prefer long-term tenants. While eviction filings are not as detrimental as being forcibly removed via an executed eviction, their consequences can still haunt people. A 2007 Yale Law Journal article, from a time when the practice of corporate collating of eviction records was in its infancy, pointed to these records' problems, namely, that landlord screenings of this data show the actions of previous landlords, not necessarily the tenants themselves. Would-be tenants are often denied housing based on past eviction filings, even if they weren't evicted. I can go on and on about this, the legal part of it, but why? The bottom line is this system is rigged against not only black women but black men. We as a people need each other, and we're the only ones who don't seem to get that. Us working together as black man and woman can stop a lot of this drama from happening, but I'm afraid this independent woman madness have overtaken women's common sense. This is Reno in the Mix. Please like and subscribe, and comment. Until next time, I'm out.